because I just don't need your bumper. Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye.
Well, this guy might not be happy about it.
Massie staying over with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie, did you find out? Steven, you remember me? I sang a song about you struggle with flex. Marjorie, I love you. We can heal the party divide together. Let's get Chinese food out of house.
Yeah. It's turning into a little bit of circus now.
Yeah. I got that on camera of them shooting. I love how it didn't fade into the world.
It's not appropriate for her to have that conversation.
At a press conference in D.C.?
Because of
Probably not. No.
You're on a hot mic.
Go ahead.
You gotta go.
If you don't have a press credential, you have to leave. Can we leave it? Those who have one. Nothing but things.
Voks til blokken først, ikke?
There's a bunch of people just floating in.
I don't know, yes, maybe, yeah. This is Jim's. When he shows up, it's in the morning. I have some. This is my bag. This is Jim's bag. Yeah, he's got this on.
This was good 2 weeks.
You want to move your leg to the other side of my tripod, I'll get you. You won't be on my shot. You want to move your leg to the other side of the tripod. Yeah, this is my tripod. You can put it on the other side. You're not on my shot, it's just a bit closer.
Just trying to get my Sorry, yeah. Billy, I was touching my bag. There's not much.
Just if that was better.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to love it.
No, I'm used to it.
Scrunchal on that person. It's my bad. I would just be ready because they might go like the conversation that's being had right there is you're not president. I don't know if they're actually going to like go around or to have that conversation. Right, just this.
Greg. Do you have a lightning cable by any chance? Do you have a lightning cable? Are you getting audio? Yeah. Thanks. Chip. Sorry, Andy, are you back? I'm back there. I'm back here. Found our ladder? Yep. Okay. We love it. Cameras where it belongs.
Come throw on it.
Good morning, everybody.
Right here,
Good morning. Hello. We could, just out of respect for particularly the survivors who are going to speak, if we could have some silence. And the folks could just please come down. People can speak when members of Congress can speak. I just want to make sure that the victims and survivors are going to be heard today. I want to begin by thanking Brittany Henderson and Brad Edwards for their tireless work in the pursuit of justice. I want to thank Sarah Corey on my team for working with them. Above all, I want to thank the survivors who are here today, whose courage and strength have brought us to this moment. I want to thank my co-lead, Congressman Thomas Massie, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene for standing with survivors here today. Today, as you can see, we're united in restoring trust in government. We're here not as partisans, we're here as patriots. We begin the work of bringing this country together, progressives, independents, moderates, and yes, MAGA supporters, to demand truth and justice. A nation that allows rich and powerful men to traffic and abuse young girls without consequence is a nation that has lost its moral and spiritual core. Americans are asking a very simple question. How is it possible that in the richest, most powerful country in the world, there are corrupt special interest forces, both foreign or domestic, that are preventing the release, that have a stranglehold on our government and are preventing the release of the full Epstein files? There is something that is rotten in Washington. Less than 1% of these files have been released. We are demanding today on the discharge petition that all of the files be released. We know we have 212 Democrats and we have 4 Republicans, courageous Republicans like Thomas Massie Nancy Mace, who was so emotional yesterday after talking to the survivors, Congresswoman Boebert, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. We need just 2 more signatures to force the release. So we gather here at the steps of the Capitol to confront these corrupt forces. Today we stand with survivors. We stand against big money. We stand to protect America's children. That is really what this is about. I now want to bring up my Republican colleague, Thomas Massie. He has shown so much courage, so much leadership. And I saw some people, I say the same thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has shown so much courage on this issue. I saw some people when I was coming here calling her names. We've got to stop that. We've got to stop the partisanship on this issue. This is an issue where they both have shown real courage and leadership, and I appreciate them joining us today. Congressman Massie.
I want to thank my colleague Ro Khanna for co-leading this effort to bring transparency and justice for these victims. I hope my colleagues are watching this press conference. I want them to think, what if this was your sister? What if this was your daughter? When these survivors speak, the Washington establishment is asking the American public to believe something that is not believable. They're asking you to believe that 2 individuals created hundreds of victims and they acted alone, and that the DOJ has no idea of who else might have been involved, that nobody else did anything to a criminal enterprise. The American people know that's not true. Now, the Speaker of the House just offered a fig leaf to my colleagues. They're going to vote on a non-binding resolution today that does absolutely nothing. I appreciate the efforts of my colleague James Comer, who's leading the Oversight Committee. They may find some information, but they're allowing the DOJ to curate all of the information that the DOJ is giving them. If you've looked at the pages they've released so far, they're heavily redacted. Some pages are entirely redacted. And 97% of this is already in the public domain. So I'm calling on my colleagues, be one of the next 2 who sponsors this discharge petition. I think it's shameful that this has been called a hoax. Hopefully today we can clear that up. This is not a hoax. This is real. There are real survivors. There are real victims to this criminal enterprise. And the perpetrators are being protected because they're rich and powerful and political donors to the establishment here in Washington, D.C. So today we're standing with these survivors, giving them a voice, and I want to close by thanking them. They are brave. I hope they encourage other survivors to come forward and to tell their stories, not just of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, but anywhere in the country. This is a message that we are sending. This is a litmus test. Can we drain the swamp? Are there people who are outside of the reach of the law? I don't think there should be. So hopefully today we'll get 2 more signatures on the discharge petition. That's all we need. And with that, I want to introduce the bravest woman in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I find it interesting that the 3 Republican co-sponsors are women. These are women standing up for women. And Marjorie was the first to do it. And I think she deserves all of our gratitude for breaking that barrier and leading the way for the other Republicans. Hopefully they can find their spines as well. And with that, I give you Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Good morning. This is my 5th year in Congress, and this is the largest press conference that I've seen since I've been here. And this is because this is an issue that matters so much to Americans. This is an issue that doesn't have political boundaries. It's an issue that Republicans and Democrats should never fight about. As a matter of fact, it's such an important issue that it should bring us all together. It's grieved me to watch the arguments and debates take place among my colleagues and even the administration. I think this is something that was worth fighting for. You see, the women behind me are going to tell you stories that you've never heard before. These are unimaginable horrors that they've lived with for are enduring nightmares right now as we speak. You see, these women have been fighting since the 1990s. I heard one woman tell us yesterday since 1996. And they have carried with them shame. But I want to tell you something. The shame does not fall on these brave, courageous women. The shame falls on every single person that coldly turned a blind eye to their abuse. The shame falls on every single person that enabled it. The shame falls on every single person that took money to continue it. And the shame falls on the people in power over the past several decades that protected the monster, Jeffrey Epstein, and his cabal that continued a nightmare. Those people deserve the shame. And today, we are coming forward and we are going to fight like hell for these women, because we have to fight like hell for those that are enduring sexual abuse and are living in a prison of shame. Anyone that is being abused, it is not your fault. You should live with no guilt or fear or shame. All of the fault belongs to the evil people that do these things to the innocent. This is the most important fight we can wage here in Congress, is fighting for innocent people that never receive justice. And the women behind me have never received justice. And do you want to know why? It's because Jeffrey Epstein somehow was able to walk among the most rich, powerful people, not only in America, but foreign countries. Yesterday I heard countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and even Israel, and other countries. The truth needs to come out, and the government holds the truth. The cases that are sealed hold the truth. Jeffrey Epstein's estate holds the truth. The FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA holds the truth. And the truth we are demanding come out on behalf of these women, but also as a strong message to every innocent child, teenager, woman, and man that is being held captive in abuse. This should never happen in America, and it should never be a political issue that divides us. And I want to thank Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie for doing something brave, crossing political boundaries for a very important fight. And I'm honored to join both of them. And I'm honored that Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert signed the discharge petition along with myself. And I asked my Republican colleagues not to choose just one path for justice and transparency and accountability, but I asked my Republican colleagues to choose every path for justice and accountability and transparency. And with that, I'd like to bring back Congressman Ro Khanna to start this important press conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman Greene, for your courage and for being here, and thank you again to Congressman Massie for co-leading it. I now would like to introduce two people who have been fighting this for decades. They haven't had their voice heard, victims haven't been heard, they haven't just been on this in the last few months. They've been doing this in the wilderness for years, and they are really models of courage. Bradley Edwards and Brittany Henderson, who are the attorneys for the victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Ro and Thomas Massie. I really appreciate you putting forth this discharge petition. It's tough to understand that we have to be here because this doesn't seem like a partisan issue. This is an issue, sex trafficking and sexual abuse transcends politics. We as Americans expect equal protection under the law, and there can be no doubt that Jeffrey Epstein received far greater protection than any of the victims that he abused for years. In 2008, Courtney Wild walked into my office because she was a part of a federal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, where all she wanted was the government to talk to her. Little did she know the government had worked out a secret immunity deal for Jeffrey Epstein, and we had to file Jane Doe versus United States of America to prove that Jeffrey Epstein worked out an illegal non-prosecution agreement with the government. That was 2008. It took us 10 years battling the government pro bono for the judge to ultimately determine that the victims' rights were violated. The government has mistreated them after Jeffrey Epstein mistreated them. We then filed civil lawsuits against Ghislaine Maxwell, which has resulted in her being in prison. Our civil lawsuits led to her prosecution. We filed lawsuits against Jeffrey Epstein, against his estate, and against two financial institutions, JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank, that proved that they knowingly provided the financial infrastructure for a sex trafficking operation. Unfortunately, all of the documents and evidence that we have worked so hard to gather hide behind protective orders, confidentiality agreements, and bank secrecy laws. That is why this discharge petition is so important. While we have seen the documents, you haven't. And when you see the documents, you're going to be appalled. And the American people deserve to see everything. When you sign this discharge petition, it should mean nothing is off limits. That means the documents in the possession of the CIA should be made available. Those in possession of the FBI going back decades should be made available. The SEC, financial records in the possession of FinCEN should be made available. Everybody knows that evil flourishes in the darkness. Corruption flourishes in secrecy. It is time, right now, to make a difference for the women that are behind me right now. They have been courageous and fought through this whole thing. Whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, this one is an easy call. You're an American who cares about equal rights and equal protection under the law. If you care about these women, if you care about our country, and you care about this issue, this should pass with flying colors. I really appreciate everybody being here. Woo!
Other lawyers, Fischer and Polly, and people who have been fighting for a very, very long time for the world to give this kind of attention to an issue that it should have had forever. This administration has the opportunity to do what the past administrations did not do. This administration can either stand with the victims and stand for the victims, or it can continue to hurt the victims, like has happened in the past. We aren't here just to ask for transparency, though. We're here too to ask for protection. The women here represent hundreds of other women who we have spoken to, many of whom were trafficked from other countries, Eastern European countries, where women don't have the rights that we have here. Women don't have the protections that we have here. And those women are terrified that their names will be released in these files. The government won't know that they're victims to redact and protect them. So we ask that you please, whoever is going to be in charge of redacting these files and in charge of this transparency, do it in a way that protects the women brave enough to be here, but also protects the women who are terrified that every day when they turn the TV on, something bad is going to happen to them in Ukraine, in Russia, in whatever country they live in, because no one is listening to them there. So thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and please protect these women while we seek transparency.
Good morning. My name is Anushka and I stand before you today as a survivor of both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to thank Congressman Massie and Khanna for their role in putting together this very, very important bill. Every day of this journey for healing has come at a profound cost to my mental health. But I am here. I chose to come because this bill really matters. I speak today not only in service of my own recovery from trauma inflicted by Maxwell and Epstein, but to honour the lives, courage and sacrifices of Virginia Giuffre, Caroline Andriano, and others who could not speak. Their voices mattered. Their stories must not be forgotten. Accountability is what makes a society civilized. Equal opportunity and equal consequence for all. Consequences are not about punishment alone. They exist to deter future harm, to protect the vulnerable, and to set the standard of justice. If Ghislaine Maxwell were pardoned, it would undermine all the sacrifices I made to testify and make mockery of mine and all surviving suffering. That is why the Epstein Files Transparency Act is so essential. It requires the Department of Justice release all the records related to Epstein and Maxwell investigations, flight logs, immunity deals, internal communications, and even the records surrounding Epstein's detention and death. And crucially, it forbids withholding documents simply because of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. This is about ending secrecy wherever abuse of power takes place. But transparency alone is not enough. Survivors need protection, resources, and legal support. If this Congress is serious about justice, then let this moment also affirm your commitment to provide victims with the legal aid they need to confront abuse, to navigate complex systems, and to reclaim their power. Transparency must be matched by support, or else too many victims will remain silent out of fear and lack of access. The statistics demand action. Nearly 1 in 5 women in America will experience rape or attempted rape in her lifetime. Every 74 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted. Every 9 minutes, that person is raped. These are not numbers, they are people. They are your daughters, your sons, your constituents, your friends. Statistically, 1 in 5 of your families will face that. The days of sweeping this under the rug are over. We, the survivors, say no more. I want to help create a world where survivors of sexual abuse and abuse of power can come forward safely. And I ask Congress to join me in that effort. Not only by passing this bill, but by ensuring that those who step forward have legal support to face their abusers and see justice. When Judge Berman gave Epstein survivors the chance to finally speak, the world listened. After so many years, survivors were heard. That moment was historic. And so is this moment. For me, the turning point was when I had my daughter. And on the day she was born, I knew I had a responsibility to protect her and to protect her.
No, move over to the grass.
I have to use my voice, the voice that has been silenced by fear and shame for so many years. Make no mistake, my polished exterior is a shield hiding a wound that still bleeds. But through this wound, I have found a purpose. To be part of lasting change in how we confront exploitation and abuse. And to be clear, the only motive for opposing this bill would be to conceal fear.
Not even a foot to be on the sidewalk. I know it's silly, but move over to the grass. Move over to the grass.
I am no longer
all on the grass.
I am no longer
They will. There were 2 people here yesterday that were detained for not complying with Capitol Police. They don't
with your
go
vote,
around.
neither will the next generation be.
I love y'all.
President
I don't want
Trump,
to see y'all
you have
detained.
so much influence and power in this situation. Please use that influence and power to help us. Because we need it now, and this country needs it now.
Hey guys, I'm one of the volunteers. All the people who have been volunteers. I want to say thank you. Most of the volunteers.
My name is Andi Farmer, and I was 16 years old when I was flown to Mexico to investigate the Maxwell Epstein in 1996. My sister, Maria Farmer, reported what happened to Dawn, along with reporting her own assault in their hands and their theft, sensitive photos of herself, me, and our younger sister, who she had taken for her work as a patient detainer. I am now 46 years old. 30 years later, we still do not know why that report wasn't properly investigated, or why Epstein and his associates were allowed to harm hundreds, if not thousands, of other girls and women. We've never been told whether those images were found when they discovered a large amount of child sexual abuse material on his property. As a psychologist, I understand that when the system is meant to protect us, recreate the abuse cycle, This happens when survivors of these crimes are not believed, when our well-being is not weighed as heavily as those who have more resources or more privilege, and when perpetrators of these crimes are given a platform rather than the survivors. For so many years, it felt like Epstein's criminal behavior was an open secret. Not only did many others participate in the abuse, it is clear that many were aware of these issues to girls and very young women and chose to work the other way because it benefited them to do so. They wanted access to his circle and his money. Their choice to align with his power left those of us who had been harmed by this man and his associates feeling very isolated. I could never have imagined being here today in this court.
Very strict. You can't even sit
on
the wall. You can stand on it. Please stand 1 to 2 behind on the ground.
Who expressed their
Right there. Just on the
And I
ground.
believe that as
Just
we
on
move
the
forward,
ground.
as Anushka explained so well, this is extremely wise.
Hey guys, we are here for the survivors right now. We're not here to make a scene, okay? We are not here to make a scene. We're here to support them.
From my conversations with women these last few days, and from all of the support that we've received, it's very clear to me that we are not going away. We are not going to be quiet. We are not going to give up. And I ask the American public to stand with us and not give up. At a time with record high levels of distrust in our institutions and a perception that there are two Americas, one for those with power and privilege, and one for everyone else, passing this Epstein transparency bill is one important step that can be taken to prove to Americans that the government does not side with the second Amendment. A thorough public review of this information is an important step to protect systemic failures that have occurred in this case and harmed all of us. An important step towards healing. Hello everyone. Very powerful and special for all of us. My name is Maria Davies. I was minor victim 1 in federal indictment of Jeffrey Epstein in 2019. I was one of dozens of girls that I personally know who were forced into Jeffrey's mansion on 9 East 71 Street in New York City when we were just kids. Today is the first time that I've ever spoken publicly about what happened. I never thought that I would find myself here. The only reason that I am here is because it feels like the people who matter in this country finally care about what we have to say. As an immigrant from Brazil, I feel empowered knowing that the little girl struggling to get by at 14 and 15 years old finally has a voice. For the first time, I feel like I matter as an American. I was only 14 years old when I met Jeffrey. It was the summer of high school. I was working 3 jobs to try to support my mom and my sister when a friend of mine in the neighborhood told me that I could make $300 to give an older guy a massage. It went from a dream job to the worst nightmare. Jeffrey assistant Leslie Groff would call me and tell me that I needed to be at the house so often that I ended up dropping out of high school before 9th grade. And I never went back. From 14 to 17 years old, I went and worked for Jeffrey instead of receiving an education. Every day I hoped that he would offer me a real job as one of his assistants or something important. I would finally have made it big, as like you say, the American dream. That day never came. I had no way out. I was until he finally told me that I was too old. There are many pieces of my story that I can't remember, no matter how hard I try. The constant state of wonder causes me so much fear and so much confusion. My therapist says that my brain is just trying to protect itself. But it's so hard to begin to heal knowing that there are people out there who know more about my abuse than I do. The worst part is that the government is still in possession right now.
They have documents with my name on them that were confiscated from Jeffrey Epstein's house and could help me put the pieces of my own life back together. But I don't have any of it. And I know the same is true for many of them. We are here to support this bill today, not only for transparency, but for the American people. But if the government is going to release these documents to the public, describing the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and others, the least that they can do is give me my documents that they have about me. The other survivors deserve the same respect from our government. While our identifying information must be redacted to the public, it is equally important to provide the victims themselves with unredacted information. I will never forget when the FBI agent showed up in my door in 2008. Jeffrey Epstein hired a lawyer to represent me, or more like to represent me, I used to say. I couldn't ask any questions, and I had no idea what was going on. I was terrified. Until today, I think most of us are still terrified. I thought somebody was going to kill me. I thought something was going to happen to my sister or my mother. It went further out to even maybe thinking something would happen to Brazil with my family. And then one day, the lawyer said that everything was just going to go away. Like nothing happened. I didn't need to testify. When I asked him why, he gave no explanation. That was it. So why? Why was I never called to testify then? We could have saved so many women. We could have saved so many lives from being abused. Why did he get away with it in 2008? Why was he able to go on and abuse with hundreds of girls after the Florida investigation? Why didn't they let me testify to help stop it? Our government could have saved so many women. But Jeffrey Epstein was too important, and those women didn't matter. Why? Well, we matter now. We are here today, and we are speaking, and we are not going to stop speaking. Today, I stand here with the women who have really helped me to find the strength to come out and come forward to share my story for the very first time. Together, we are stronger than ever. While she may not be with us, Virginia Roberts, we will continue to use our voices to strengthen those voices.
Just have a moment of silence for all the women survivors that aren't here with us today, that passed away due to anxiety, depression, trying to keep up with this case. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. My name is Courtney Wild. I was only 14 years old when I was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein by a the details of the abuse that he inflicted on me for years is not important today. In 2028, I was cooperating with the federal government in the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. They sent me a letter telling me to be patient because this was going to be a lengthy investigation, but at the same time, they refused to talk to me and tell me what was going on. So I hired an attorney, Brad Edwards, because I was hopeful to get some answers. When I walked into his office at 19 years old, Brad sued the government for refusing to tell me what was going on under the Crime Victims' Rights Act. The only reason anyone ever found out that the government had already given Jeffrey Epstein immunity through the non-prosecution agreement was because our lawsuit forced the government to tell us. Otherwise, nobody would even know that today. Sometimes it's hard to believe that I had to sue the United States just to learn that my abuser was given immunity. I started as Jane Doe, but I decided I was proud enough to take on our country, and I was on the right side of history. We fought the government for 10 years to prove that the government violated our rights as crime victims and the crime victims' rights in order to protect pedophiles. We had to win the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals to force the government to turn over thousands of pages of emails between Jeffrey Epstein and the government.
Those emails provided the proof that the government worked very hard with Jeffrey Epstein to violate our rights. Why? Why did the government work so hard to protect Jeffrey and not so hard to protect me and my other innocent friends? Why was Jeffrey so important to the government, and why was I so insignificant? Why did nobody but our lawyers care before now? It seems people have only started to care because of Twitter and politics. But I would like to say this has nothing to do with politics. This is not a blue thing or a red thing. This is an everyone thing. We can all agree on this. The injustice that has happened here. Multiple, over and over. Everybody that talks about this just seems to make it worse. We need transparency. It's time for us to see beyond the curtain. Why was Jeffrey Epstein so protected? Who is still being protected? And who protected them all, so the world can understand how Jeffrey was able to abuse so many of us for so long. I was lucky to have Brad Edwards, Brittany Henderson, and Paul Cassell take on my case pro bono and fight fearlessly over 20 years' time. I would like to thank them, and I'd also like to ask the Trump administration to please sign off on the Crime Victims' Rights Reform Act, the Courtney Wild Crime Victims' Rights Reform Act that's we're trying to get passed here, so we can close the loopholes in the CVRA case that Epstein's attorney used to their benefit to get away with this. Thank you so much.
We are here today because we support H.Res.581, the Epstein File Transparency Act, in its entirety. But as much as this bill is about shining a light on truth, it's not just about guilt. This is about justice. This is about survivors. This is about justice against the rich and powerful who have stolen something from these women and many children at the time. Their freedom. The freedom to live their life without mental and physical scars that have been inflicted upon them by those who thought they were untouchable. The same freedom that these monsters took from these survivors, they should never be afforded. They should never be allowed to continue their lives with impunity. Let's be clear, this is not a political issue. This is not about left or right. This is about humanity. This is about doing what's right. And this is about ensuring that the future we leave behind isn't one where the powerful can hide behind their wealth, their influence, and their money to evade justice. Our plea to you, whether you're a dad, a mom, a brother, or a sister, look your young ones in the face. Look them in the eye and tell them you didn't stand against the very people who raped, molested, and preyed upon children and young women. Tell them you were willing to negotiate a deal. Money should never be what makes something right or wrong. If you vote no, your stance will be clear. You will be choosing to stand on the side of the rich and powerful, allowing money to buy your way out of the consequence. But here's my one ask. Look these survivors in the eye and tell them why. Then, look the people of the United States in the eye and tell them why. And then, when you're alone, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself why. Virginia said it best, and I quote, "I have physical and mental scars that will never heal. I have memories that will never go away. They say time can heal, but this won't. Not until the justice system makes an example out of these people with so-called privileges. Abuse are watching. The American people are watching. And history is watching. Which side will you be on? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jenna Lisa Jones, and I was only 14 years old when my friend brought me over to Jeffrey Epstein's house in Palm Beach in 2003. I had a terrible home life, but I was such an innocent kid then. I always did my best in school, and I had such a positive outlook on life. Until that day that I met Jeffrey, I have never been more scared in my life than I was that first time that he hurt me. I remember crying the entire way home, thinking about how I couldn't ever tell anyone about what actually happened in that house. This guy was so rich and had so many pictures with so many famous people, and no one would have ever believed like I want to thank Congressman Rowe and Congressman Massie for having me here today. It was really hard for me to find my voice and to become strong enough to speak about my abuse. I didn't come forward until 2019, and even then it was like I was afraid of a ghost. I know that I was just a little kid, but sometimes I still feel like it is my fault that this happened. Being given the opportunity to speak at the United States Capitol building about something that is so important, not just to me and the women before you, but to the entire country. Together, we can finally make a change. And that is thanks to the people like these two congressmen and their teams who actually care about the victims. If you are a member of Congress and you are listening to all of us speak here today, please really listen to us. Please vote for this bill to be passed. Please recognize how important it is for transparency relating to Jeffrey Epstein. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, this does not matter. This is not about size. You are an American and you are a person who has chosen to serve in an elected position to stand up for those you represent who cannot always stand up for themselves. We are those people. We are the Americans that you promised to protect. And we need your help. Please, President Trump, pass this bill and help us. Make us feel like our voices are finally being heard.
Good afternoon, my name is Haley Robson. I was a 16-year-old high school student athlete who made good grades and had high aspirations for college. When I was recruited and asked by a classmate of mine alongside with a 20-year-old male if I wanted to give an old rich guy a massage. But what high school girl would not want to do that? That day changed my life forever. And when I got into the massage room, Jeffrey Epstein undressed and asked me to do things to him. My eyes welled up with tears, and I have never been more scared in my life. When it was over, he paid me $200 and requested in exchange that I bring a girl each time to make another $200. I told him I did not want to do that, and then he gave me an ultimatum. Either you come here and massage me when I call you, or you bring me friends of yours to massage, and I will give you $200 per girl for each time she comes. I felt and hoped to never hear from him again, but he called me every day. He was so wealthy and powerful, and he did not let me go. I felt I had no choice. If I disobeyed him, I knew something bad would happen. So knowing I did not want to be sexually abused, I started to bring him other girls from my high school, and he paid me $200. $200 for bringing them. I just hoped each time it would be the last time. One day, the stepmom of one of the girls brought him and called the police on Jeffrey Epstein. The police then called me in for questioning. I had told them the truth despite the fact that I was a teenager and a minor, and I was able to tell the police the names of all the other victims. The police treated me like a criminal. I had, by this time, had turned 18. I had been with Jeffrey since I was 16 and for 2 years. So they had told me I distributed So they told me I was going to be arrested. My name was then distributed to the press as a co-conspirator of my abuser, who I detested. My entire world was crashing in around me, and I started being threatened and bullied, till this day still receiving death threats. I was singled out and for many years had to suffer a smear campaign of lies about me because of the way that I was portrayed by the press. The press made me out to be a predator when I was just a 16-year-old little girl who was sexually abused by a powerful man and an evil man. For years, I had no friends. My boyfriend was murdered, and there was nowhere to turn. The government, after investigating more, learned that I was true a victim, but the damage was done and it was too late. There was no way to undo the harm the press had caused me. In 2019, I met Brad Edwards and Brittany Henderson. They changed my life and they believed in me and have helped me to finally heal. Healing is a process, and I may never get there. But the passage of this bill requiring the government to produce all the evidence that it has gathered on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is a huge component of healing for me and for the many other women who have suffered for so long. For many reasons. First, we and the rest of the world need answers. Why was he so protected? And why didn't anyone ever care to stop him? It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know that if he is spending thousands of dollars a day paying high school girls he abuses and other access to, and had a lot of access to cash. I learned through my attorneys in the JP Morgan class action case that there were years when his staff withdrew over $1 million in cash a year. Was that not a big enough red flag? There were wire transfers to other victims, and the government did not protect us. The banks did not protect us. So lift the curtain on these files and be transparent. Every single time a new conspiracy gets circulated in the media, whether he is still alive, what powerful person had him murdered, who was on the Epstein client list, and there are names going around on TikTok and Instagram. We, the survivors, are suffering severely. We take our kids to school and everyone is talking about it. We can't read the news or do anything without hearing crazy stories that are only able to live on because the government continues to hide the evidence and the truth. So people just make up stories. Those stories hurt. They hurt real people who have already been hurt. And we have lost so many Epstein victims to suicide, and maintaining the real truth in secrecy only allows for conspiracy theorists to tell lies that drives up our anxiety and fears and will continue to lead to more pain, more suffering, and honestly, more deaths of innocent victims. It's time you do is right by us. Unseal all the documents. We are requesting transparency. And I am requesting every congressman and woman that goes against this bill be outed. I want to know. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Lisa Jones, and I'm the host of a award-nominated podcast called Prom a platform supporting survivors. I want to thank all of my survivor sisters for supporting today. I'll be very short. In the year 2000, I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein Island and fallen apart on a nearby island. What I saw and what I experienced there was a glimpse of a very dark history. For years after, I tried to avoid him, but he had introduced me to the very top of fashion, arts, and entertainment. This did not just happen to Andi Farmer. In New York City, hundreds of young, ambitious women were abused. Epstein was not just a serial predator. He was an international human trafficker, exploited. We are not asking for it. We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice. Congress must choose. Will you continue to protect predators, or will you finally protect survivors? And also, I would like to announce today, us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names.
of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names of all of them. Regularly, and we're regularly in the Epstein party. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors. No one else. Stay tuned.
Just my story. It is about every survivor who carries invisible scars. It's about the weight we live with daily. It is about the families broken and the future stolen. So I ask you, President Trump and members of Congress, why do we continue to cover up sexual abuse and assault? Who are we covering for? Let the public know the truth. We cannot heal without justice. We cannot protect the future if we refuse to confront the past.
Just give a round of applause for all the courage and strength. We now will take a few questions. You can always get Congressman Massie, Congressman me, or Congresswoman Greene in the hallways and other places. If you have questions for us, that's fine. But I wanted to see first if you have questions for the lawyers and the survivors, and Brad will facilitate any of the questions for the survivors. Yes.
This question would be for the survivors. The president has said that this Epstein issue is a hoax, is the word that we use. Do we get more reactions to what you think the
However, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
What does it feel like emotionally?
It's being gutted from the inside out. Not that I would know what that feels like, but I imagine it's the anxiety buildup with the depression and the survival mode, and then your nervous system goes limp and ironically is shot. And it feels like you just want to explode inside because nobody, again, is understanding that this is a real situation. These women are real. We're here in person. To say that it's a hoax is just not. Please humanize us. I would like Donald J. Trump and every person in America and around the world to humanize us, to see us for who we are and to hear us for what we have to say. There is no hoax. The abuse was real. Now, what goes on behind closed doors, I can't speak for that. What happens around the world politically, I cannot speak for that. But I am here with all of these women, including our attorneys, and I would be more than happy to meet with him, and I will meet him halfway.
Many of the victims could respond to the news from recently about Ghislaine Maxwell being transferred to a lower security prison in the aftermath of speaking to talk
Getting transferred.
I'm happy to push that. We were horrified to learn that she was in her she's someone who was found guilty by the jury of sexual abuse. She not only, we often hear that she procured women, suggests that it was a very light, humanizing term. She also participated in the abuse. She was a major architect, and the fact that she's publicly somebody was disgusting, and it was horrifying because we were not told about her prison history. We found out about it. Mr. Advice, what can you think?
So, Anushka DiGiorgio, I testified alongside Annie at the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. I was horrified when I was abused by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for over 10 years. Ghislaine Maxwell was present for some of my abuse under Jeffrey Epstein. She was present, she was complicit, she was enabling, and it is appalling and disgusting, and it's one of my worst nightmares that she not only be transferred, but at the possibility that's very much going around that she might be part of this. This is not okay, guys. This is not okay.
And I just want to add that I think this is a very dangerous message to our country, to young people in the country, that we all know is aware of this crime.
just for the last survivor who just spoke. The last survivor who just spoke, she said that Epstein would brag about the relationship with Donald Trump. Could you please elaborate on that?
On this client list that your survivors are, excuse me, he called on me. For this client list that you ladies are putting together, you said it would be confidential, but will the public, could you clarify, will the public get to see that at one point?
So Lisa, what's your envision here?
At the budget fund,
we're reaching out to survivors that are scared to come forward and that also know who to reach out to. That's the list that we're preparing. We're not quite sure how we're going to reset our public going to the Department of Justice institutions.
Right, because for folks at home, they might be confused. You know, the survivors know the names. You've seen these powerful people. Why can't you say the names? Could you just explain for folks who might not be
have to say the names when the government knows the names. And we're also scared to do so. Look what's happened to so many survivors that have those names.
I find it
question about the bill?
I think it's also worth saying that having represented between our firm and Boyce Schiller hundreds of victims, and we've talked to them about the various people that they were farmed out to. So we've created somewhat of a list. Most of these individuals, the victims, are very scared to say these names because they could get sued, they're going to get attacked, and nobody protected them the first time. And that was against one person. So is there a list? There is a list, but just to dispel kind of the common theme here, every one of these women was abused by Jeffrey Epstein, and his scheme was to personally abuse women. When they reached a certain age, he did farm a section of them, some of them, out to some of his friends. That doesn't mean all of his friends. With that said, I'm more than happy to assist in helping create the list behind the scenes and see what we do.
Hold on. I think if someone's interested in prosecuting, they may have something different to say about sharing a list. But they're not sharing a list for nothing to happen, and that's the experience that they've had for all of these years. Do any of the survivors here not want the bill to pass?
First of all, our legislation, Ro Khanna and I went through this, we talked about this, and we were very careful to make sure that there is an exception so that personally identifiable information, not just their names, but anything they could be identified by, would not be disclosed.
And can you speak to that as survivors yourself?
I think all of them are on the same page. They want everything released. Yeah, they unequivocally redact personally identifying information and release everything else.
Mr. Edward, thank you. It's your first time speaking. I'll go to Maria.
Yeah, sure.
Maria, you have stayed silent for so many years.
Yeah.
Today, this is the first time you understand correctly. You have never before gone public with your story and to share this. Can you help us understand why today, why now, and why here?
Well, it is not okay for silence. It is not okay for Jeffrey Epstein and everybody else to be put on this. I think everybody needs to hear from us because we know what went on, right? And there is not any need for silence. There are hundreds of women that are silent. My hope is to stop this abuse for the future, right? For people that are women. My daughter, for example, these people, these women have daughters, they definitely want that. And I think mainly is there for all of us too. You know, we want to be heard. Nobody also has never asked me to speak. That's also another thing. So I can say for all of us here, we are here, we want this bill to pass. It's very important. And we need transparency. We're tired of looking at the news and seeing Jeffrey Epstein's name and saying that this is a hoax. We are tired of it. We are done. We're not going to be silenced, and I hope that my voice will bring other survivors and other victims to come along and speak up so that we can be more stronger and louder.
And so what is your message to President Trump?
I'm already scared enough. Just pass the vote, listen to us. This is not a hoax. Like, it's not gonna go away. And like I said on my speech earlier, we're not gonna be silenced anymore. We will be speaking, moving forward, wherever we need to be. We will be, and we need to pass this.
Mr. Edwards, nice to see you. Jordan Conrad from Gateway Columbia. You know, for years we've heard that there was an Epstein client list or some kind of list. Now we hear from the DOJ that there's no list. Question for all the victims. What do you guys think? I know you're working on your own list, but do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein had a list?
So there's not a list. Yeah. So here's what it was. Just like you heard everybody say, Jeffrey Epstein created through an organization that of enablers, of people that were on his payroll. It's a complicated scheme where others should still be investigated because they helped to enable him and operate this scheme. Without those people, he could not have done this. But the purpose was for him to personally abuse people. With that being said, certain of his friends, he farmed out certain of the women that he was exploiting too, but that wasn't the primary purpose of that scheme, and I don't think you wrote the names of those people down. There's not a list of, hey, here's all of the people that I sent females to. That's just not how that organization works.
Mr. Edwards, is there no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was involved or either tied to the CIA or foreign intelligence operations?
I think that the safest thing for me to say is all files should come out, whether it is with the CIA, FinCEN, SEC, FBI. I'm not just making these up haphazardly. I'm giving you a roadmap where to look. I'll go first and then I'll let them, they're much more important to me, but I don't understand why it's a hostile act. I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that, he didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me, he got on the phone, he told me things that were helping our investigation. Now, our investigation wasn't looking into him, but he was helping us then. He didn't treat this as a hoax. So at this point in time, I would hope that he would revert back to what he was saying to get elected, which is, I want transparency. This about face that occurred, none of us understand it. In fact, I don't understand how this is an issue that's even up for debate. How do you not stand behind these women after you've heard their stories and know that hundreds of them were abused, and it was only because files were being kept in secrecy? The world should know who he is, who protected him, and the other people that are out there to be investigated need to be investigated.
Sir,
are there any people who are currently serving in government who are named, who you know of, are in these files, who you had relations with, anything of that sort, who Jeffrey Epstein connected you with? Are you willing to say yes or no?
I don't think I can answer.
Mr. Edwards, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards,
sorry.
Mr. Edwards, you represent Virginia Roberts to Frank, correct?
Have the victims being threatened? Because they're saying they're being scared to call.
Hi, Anushka Giorgio. I have been threatened. I was threatened by phone. My daughter was threatened when I was volunteering to participate in, by means of being a witness in a civil lawsuit that Virginia Giuffre was bringing against Ghislaine Maxwell. I have been followed. I have been stalked. I have been followed not only by journalists, but by people who do not get out of the car and do not try and talk to me and just drive behind me as I drive my daughter to the street. So the fear is very real for us. I have also been in multiple situations with both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell where they have been direct and indirect about implying and saying that if I was to talk, if I was to bring any kind of trouble, then there would be severe consequence, including
Maxwell also said Andi Farmer, when the FBI did nothing about her initial report, she reported individually at that time, and then in 2002, we spoke to a reporter at Vanity Fair telling our story, fearful that perhaps that was being harmed. We were not believed that we could make a difference. We believed that would be put in print, and that's where it was crushed. And it was because of their power. And the message that we got from that was direct threats from Maxwell to my sister about her well-being and her safety, and not her family. So there, I think, some people have similar stories of threats, but it's a real part.
Do any of today's survivors speaking, did anybody here ever have any connection or interaction with Epstein's alleged financier, Leslie Wexner?
I was to say, one thing that's very clear when people say, share names, there are names that are very well known, like that of Les Wexner, who everyone knows supplied an enormous amount of Epstein's financial wealth and allowed this operation to happen. So it's, I think, confusing to many of us why there have not been more ramifications for him and he's been seen as a victim. Clearly, I believe there's more time.
Right here, please. Yeah. So you represented Virginia Roberts with Frank for many years. She eventually had to recant the allegations that she made against Alan Dershowitz. She alleged that on at least 6 occasions she had been sex trafficked.
All right, next question.
Answer that question.
Sure.
Why is it that she should be regarded as credible in this respect? You're not going to answer the question?
How did the victims feel about the interview that was given to Ghislaine Maxwell by Todd Glantz?
Why aren't you going to answer that question? How's that
Okay, ma'am, I think that you had a question.
When you
You're not good. They just avoided my question. You don't care?
When you've talked in the past on MSNBC about the existence of the Epstein book, have you yourself in the course of litigation seen it?
I don't know that we're able to reveal what we've seen and what we have not seen by way of protective order, but my point being in that circumstance was, if anybody wants answers, there's an easy place to get it. I told you where to get it. I said the estate of Jeffrey Epstein has it. Serve a subpoena on them. They'll turn it over. And if we had served a subpoena on them in the past, they would have turned it over and we would have seen it. Which I don't usually miss subpoenas like that. So there we go.
Elaborate on the
question from Ms. Davis. You mentioned
to your question about the allegations, there's a simple answer. Release the files.
I agree.
Let the American public decide. Instead of
But you and your colleagues were talking about this woman, and I thought she has some kind of credibility. She made up the grievous allegations against a prominent individual, among others. She wrote a memoir, and then had to admit, Edwards and his other counsel had to admit a fictionalized memoir. He knows what I'm talking about. That contained hugely salacious allegations against a whole host of prominent individuals. So shouldn't you tell the public about this?
You've been heard. And even Alan Dershowitz,
he avoided the question.
Even Alan Dershowitz says release the files. Release the files. That is the answer, and that's what we're here for.
Get him out.
That's Michael Tracy. He's been harassing Whitney.
On your interactions with Donald Trump back in 2009, and for any of the victims,
They just make a move.
Yeah,
the president have been not the president yet, but never
Trump does he work for? He's independent too. He's definitely.
I don't know. I don't think we can answer that. Did anybody see Trump with that back then? This is really not a political thing. We want the passage of the bill, and this is not to call out.
So what about your interactions with Trump?
My point was that he was friendly back then, did not think that it was a hoax, and was trying to help. And now it seems like all of a sudden somebody's in his ear and he's not. I'm hoping he'll come back to where he was back in 2009. Be on the side of the victims and stand with us.
Happy to speak on that because what I will say is she got this airtime and her voice was elevated way before our voices were elevated here today. And that same manipulative voice that she had so polite there that day with Avalanche was the same polite, coercive, manipulative voice that I heard as she was grooming me to then send me off to the home of Jeffrey Epstein where he would assault me. So that's what she was doing for hours, speaking with me, building relationship with me, building trust with me, allowing me to believe that I was going to get this job, a dream job that I had been recruited from my college, flown across the country from Los Angeles to New York City to interview, so I thought. So her voice that day was the same voice that sent me off to a monster. So believe nothing can be believed from what she says because she's been charged with perjury. I myself could sit there and listen, and as I did, I sat there and listened to this woman's voice lie. And there was no pushback from Todd Glantz because does he even have the facts to be able to push back on her? We could sit there and push back. Why didn't we get to attend that? Why weren't we there that day? Or why wasn't even one of us consulted prior to that day in that meeting? And why on earth has she been moved from Florida to her, it basically is prison spa. I mean, let's be real. None of us were consulted. I found out, just like everyone here found out, through the media, through all of you, we found out about Ghislaine's transfer. So we are all, I'm very angry to sit there and listen. The feelings that come up listening to this woman's voice is repulsive. Yes, I would say it's triggering. We all work very hard on healing, and it still gets to us after 2 decades. It's a very long answer, but it's repulsive to sit there and listen to her voice in her interview.
Can we take two more questions? One over here.
My reporting in Wendy Berry directly led to a $103 payment from JP Morgan to the Virgin Islands. Will you go after the DOJ, the FBI, because they're sitting on evidence? I've held the evidence in my hands. Could you speak to that?
I think that there's nobody that's immune from us going after them if there's legitimate actions to take. So to the extent that that evidence exists, then show it to us and we'll help in every way we can. We stand with the victim.
Share it with you.
Okay.
Can the survivors
One more.
speak to, speaking of being threatened and being afraid to come forward with a story, to the case of Katie Johnson, who alleged that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein raped
I don't think we can talk about that. I do think it's worth saying, though, despite the comments that he made, Virginia Roberts Giuffre is an American hero. She is somebody without whom we would not be able to have this voice. She was the one who had courage to name names, speak out against people, and she was standing up against everybody at one time with an enormous amount of pressure.
And most of these women are here because of Virginia Roberts.
100%.
Speaker Johnson says he's protecting the innocent. One of the victims says who they think the innocent people are that he's protecting in his mind.
Clearly not us.
I don't think that anybody knows, but I can tell you that in the Oversight Committee meeting yesterday, they indicated that they were all for transparency, releasing the files, and asked us to hold them accountable. Is that right?
Yes.
They said hold them accountable, so we intend to hold them accountable.
They hold the men accountable that are in those. Did they say that?
We're going to show them where to go with it, and as long as they're doing their job, they should. I'm going to turn it back over to Bill Connor. Thank you.
Let me say this. I think the people that who are testifying here today or speaking out today, they are Americans. Let's give them another round of applause. And you say, look, Thomas, Marjorie, and I, we're huge believers in the First Amendment, and we believe in free speech, and we take abuse all the time. But you see why it's so hard to do what they have done. Because they come forward and you subject yourself to national scrutiny and national questioning. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart how appreciative I am and how proud I am of what you've done. Before I bring on Marjorie and then Thomas will have the last word, I want to summarize 3 basic things that I heard from the survivors. First, they want to know why our government covered up for someone rich and powerful. Why is it that we have 2 Americans? People say, why do you need to release the Epstein files if Epstein is dead and Maxwell is in jail? Because we don't know who all was involved in the cover-up. Why are there rich and powerful people who didn't have justice? They want to know that. Second, many said it's important for their own closure. They don't know their own abuse. They want to understand what's in these files for themselves. And third, we heard that there are many others who obviously were involved. And they want to know, and the American people deserve to know what was there in those files. I actually think they're helping us come together as a country. I've never done a press conference with Marjorie Taylor Greene before. I've done some with us, but look, this country is divided, is exhausted. This is one thing that we can come together on. Yes. And I was very clear with Thomas, this is not against President Trump. I would like nothing more than a Truth Social post for him after this press conference saying just release the files. Be with Massie and Khanna. This is about something much deeper. It is about bringing this country together to stand for America's kids, to restore trust, and to move this country forward. So thank you to the survivors for helping us do that. Now I want to introduce Marjorie Taylor Greene.
For everyone everyone watching at home, I think it's important to put yourself in these women's shoes. As you're questioning, why can't they just name the names? What you don't realize is they just told their stories of being raped, being abused, being victimized, being manipulated, being coerced, and basically held in a prison of captivity of sexual abuse while they were young teenagers, extremely young, vulnerable women. And in Jeffrey Epstein's home and the places they went with him, they saw the most powerful people in the world in his pictures, and they saw him with them. Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to name names like that? These are some of the richest, most powerful people in the world that could sue these women into poverty and homelessness. Yeah, it's a scary thing to name names, but I will tell you, I'm not afraid to name names. And so if they want to give me a list, I will walk in that Capitol on the House floor, and I'll say every damn name that abused these women. I can do that for them, and I'd be proud to do it. Now another thing, this is not about politics, and this is a boiling point in American history where the American people, just like Roe just said, there's become two Americas. There's the America for the rich and the powerful and the elite, where they never face any struggles or problems and never experience what real America goes through. And then there's forgotten America that faces all the problems and deals with all the issues and never gets justice for being sexually assaulted and raped by a monster. It shouldn't exist anymore, and people are sick of it. So let's recognize the fact that the administration before, and the one before it, and the one before it, and the one before it, and before it, never did anything about this. So this isn't one political party or the other. It's a culmination of everyone work together to silence these women and protect Jeffrey Epstein and his cabal. And this is not just rich, powerful people. Think his drivers, his maids, his chefs, all the people, people that worked in his home, security guards. I heard one story from a young woman that was being raped by Jeffrey Epstein when he was out on work release while he was serving time in prison and had an ankle monitor on his leg. Guess what? There was a police officer outside that door. So this list of names is quite a list of names, and it doesn't extend just in the rich, powerful circles. It extends down to the very bottom where people were paid. And again, I will say this, there's victims suffering today in similar circumstances, and they're terrified to name the names of the people that are currently abusing them. And so with these brave, courageous women fighting this fight, this is a fight for women and children and any person that is facing sexual abuse and rape and captivity and human trafficking right now. And so here's what I ask you in the press. Don't go for salacious headlines. Go for the truth. And defend these women. And help those of us in Congress that are crossing our political party lines and doing the right thing and trying to do it together. And thank you, Ro, and thank you, Thomas. Now I recognize Marjorie, Thomas Massie from Brazil.
Well, there's three branches of government, and we're supposed to keep each other accountable. And that's what we're doing here today in the People's House. We're standing in front of the People's House with real people, not a hoax. And they've told their story. We wanted to give them a platform to speak, and they had it. They stepped up, and they were brave. But I also today hope that they would persuade my colleagues to join this effort. But I found out something today that happened that I wasn't expecting. They persuaded me to fight even harder. I'm not going to give up. And I want to end with this call to action. First, a call to action to my colleagues, who just an hour before this press conference were prepared. They were given a fig leaf. We'll put a resolution on the floor so that you can say that you voted to protect the survivors. Their resolution doesn't really do anything. And that's the oldest trick in the swamp. When you want to kill the momentum, when you want to kill initiative, you introduce a placebo, a different bill that does nothing, and then try to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people. That's not going to happen this time. We demand real accountability. I encourage my colleagues, please, there's over 200 Republicans who have not signed this discharge petition. We only need 2 of them to sign it, and every Democrat will sign it, and that will get us the number we need to force this vote, to pass a law, not a polite request to the DOJ to police themselves. No, we need legally binding legislation to force that to happen. And my main call to action is to the people watching these live feeds that are going through these cameras right now. Congressmen, listen to you. Light up their phones. Burn down the phone lines here in Washington, D.C. Ask them the questions that these survivors wanted you to ask them. Why won't you be for transparency? Don't accept their answer that the bill has a flaw or that the survivors don't want it. We know that's not true. They wouldn't be fighting it so hard in this town if it wasn't the real bill. So with that, please call your congressman, tell him or her to get on this bill and to stand up for these survivors. Thank you and God bless. Thank you.
Get it? Awesome.
Hey, can I use your shoulder for 1 sec?
1 sec, yeah.
You gonna time me?
So, yeah.
That's all I needed. I just didn't want to fall in everyone's
That was a challenging news.
While you're here said he would like for the president to go back to his position 9 years ago. I'd like him just to go back 9 months ago to his position.
Thomas Massie, what's some of the kickback you're getting back from your colleagues? What are some of the reasons why they don't want to endorse this?
They're being threatened. I mean, look, I've got $2 million of ads running against me back in my district, and it's funded by 3 billionaires. One of them's in Epstein's black book. I mean, this is what happens. Your consultants, your political consultants will abandon you when the White House gets mad at you. The speaker will block all of your bills. They'll shut down your fundraising. This isn't political, but it is. I mean, the opposition to this is very political.
What's your impression of what's the president of the White House seeming to whip against this vote so actively?
I have no idea why they're doing it, other than I do believe they're trying to protect the people who are rich and powerful and connected, like Republican donors.
But Speaker Johnson, his efforts as well.
He's just doing what the White House is telling him, frankly. He was for transparency for about 24 hours, and then he got tuned up by the White House.
What would you say?
Have
you had a chance to look at the Ehud Barak emails that were leaked over the last week?
I saw some of those.
And Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with the app known as Carbine, which is currently rolled out in 23 states across the United States?
I'm not that familiar with that. I'm spending most of my time trying to pour through the 35,000 pages that were released yesterday, and what I found out are pages completely redacted, entire flight logs completely redacted. So this is a non-release, and the danger that Republicans are running, particularly the administration right now, is recreating the debacle that the Attorney General Bondi had when she gave out the binders, and then everybody took them home and found out it was information they already had. What we need from this oversight committee investigation are criminal referrals. Otherwise, it's just an exercise in paperwork.
Is your message essentially that you are not backing down and this issue is not going away?
I'm not backing down. I will not back down. These survivors have convinced me that to do everything that I can. I mean, I think I already am, but I can probably think of some more things to do after
But
this.
if you don't have 2 more votes from your Republican colleagues in the end of the day, so what's your decision?
Well, it's not the end of the day.
So if you don't
Is today the deadline?
Well, procedurally what happens is this discharge petition remains active until the end of Congress. So for 14 more months, we'll be waiting for 2 signatures unless we get them today. And so the Republicans are better to just pull off the Band-Aid and have this vote. It then would go to the Senate, and the Senate has to vote on this. And so those are the next steps. But I think what's going to happen is that the fig leaf that the Speaker has offered my colleagues on my side of the aisle is going to shrink up and go away. And then they will be exposed, as was the case with the Phase 1 binders that the DOJ released. And the outrage will be even greater because they've raised expectations, not among those of us who know that this is not going to reveal anything helpful, but they've raised expectations, and then they're going to not deliver anything, and that's very dangerous.
What is your message to Republicans who might be wavering on signing this?
Well, my message is it's an opportunity. Once we get 2 more signatures, we're not collecting more signatures. So be one of those 2 that are on the right side of history, because once we get the 2, the door gets closed and it will proceed to a vote, and then you'll be back into one of 435.
Have there been Republicans in the Senate that have expressed support to you, even just in the lead up to it potentially going to the Senate?
Yes, I think Senator Markey was working on a companion race.
And any Republicans who expressed support in the Senate?
Not that I know of yet. So that would be, if people are working on a second call to action, it would be, what are you doing in the Senate? We've got this going in the House. Where's the activity in the Senate?
Why do you think the administration is putting this out there that this would be a hostile act to support your discharge petition?
Well, they've dug in. They decided they don't want it released. So it's a threat. It's a political threat. I mean, I think it's also an insult. I mean, was this a hostile action for these survivors to come and testify at the House of Representatives? Is it a hostile action that 3 women co-sponsored this legislation on the Republican side? Why is the White House trying to bully women in Congress who are trying to protect women who are just regular people who haven't been hurt? That's a question that needs to be asked. And finally, where are the men? Where are the men on the Republican side of the aisle? They need to step up and just basically tell the White House, look, I support your ideology at the White House, but on this issue, you're wrong. 80% of the base, 80% of the people who elected Donald Trump want these files released, and the other 20% aren't paying attention to the issue. So it's the right thing policy-wise, and it's the right thing political-wise. They just have to disassociate themselves from a few billionaire donors that they feel indebted to.
Are you personally worried at all by the White House's threats against you or Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene?
No, I'm the threat that's already happened. I mean, they're already running $2 million of ads against me. It's 3 billionaires, 2 hedge fund managers. One of them is in Epstein's Black Book.
Who are these billionaires?
John Paulson is one of them. Paul Singer is another, and Miriam Adelson is the other. But the one who's in Epstein's Black Book is John Paulson.
What conversations have you had?
By the way, those are max donors to the Speaker of the House. They're max donors to the NRCC. They're max donors to the RNC. They're max donors to Trump's campaign. These are 7- and 8-figure donors, and those are among the people who don't want these files released.
What conversations have you been having with your colleagues to try to convince them to back this bill, especially with the Speaker, criticizing the language? He's called this inartfully drafted. He's raised some specific criticisms.
What's interesting is the Speaker calls it inartfully drafted, but my staff and I were honored that he lifted 3 entire pages without changing the punctuation from my draft and put it in his draft. He's very carefully drafted in consultation with the parliamentarian, with the ledge counsel, with the nonpartisan group here in Congress, and among my staff. So it's most of my effort has been in basically dispelling the lies that the Speaker has been compelled to tell about the legislation. One of those lies is he says this would endanger the victims and the survivors. Well, they just all raised their hand and said they support the legislation. So hopefully we've at least dispelled that for my colleagues. And I've also warned my colleagues, they're inside of a bubble right now. Eventually, they got to go home and be accountable to their people. Their people are going to watch this press conference today. Their people are going to go through the 34,000 individual pages that were released last night, and they're going to find there's one real effort, and then there is another effort that's it's managed by the White House. The DOJ release to the Oversight Committee is completely managed by the White House. It's not like they refused to give over the documents they were subpoenaed and the Oversight Committee went and seized those documents. No, they said, listen, that subpoena is not necessary. Here, why don't we give you some documents? We'll make the redactions we want to make, and that subpoena will be unnecessary. That's what's happening. It's a negotiated exchange.
Where's the resistance from the White House?
I was over-signaling.
We're not allowed to be here.
Hey folks, we gotta meet down to Area 11. All right?
Look at that guy. Get it! I just want to feel the light, and I want to see it in the world, and I wonder why he's taking all the phone up in that room. I promise we're going to be all right.
Or you can just go on the outskirts.
If I could buy the moon, the sun, the stars, I wouldn't think twice. And we might have available.
Straight ahead.
Nazis, get a swastika badge! Get a swastika! Get a swastika badge! Yup! Pedophile protector! Pedophile protector! Lay's got the heart.
All right, watch.
You're all fucking shamed. Where are they women at? I don't know. Where do the cattle belong at this point?
We just want to know where the pen is.
Where do we belong?
I don't like marching blindly forward. That's a stupid fucking order.
In our fucking country.
We're allowed to leave.
We're allowed to leave. I'm thinking about which way I want to leave.
Which is why I'm really just
Oh, we're only allowed to leave this way. Again, we're being voted like cattle.
right now.
But you see, now that I've broken your attack vector, now we're actually having a conversation. And it's actually a lot more interesting. Because I'm actually curious to know if you don't protest, you can stay here.
What does that even mean anymore? If you don't protest, what does that mean? You can't speak? You can't
can't clap, you can't cheer, you can't hold the sign, you can't wear a mask.
That man just touched me, so watch out. This
And instead of being like a prosecutor following up on questions, he would just accept whatever he said. Oh, I didn't ever say underage. Well, here we
Nosotros importamos. Nosotros importamos. Otra vez. Aquí estamos peleando y seguimos adelante.
She's the one who claims his life on him. What are you talking about?
You are so brave. Thank you for your testimony. I don't need a list. I believe the survivors. I believe survivors.
Necesito
Thank you for your testimony. That was so amazing. That makes me feel like they do. This land was never made for that. This land was never made. We don't need a list. We believe the survivors. They make up all these rules that tell people how they do. Even if they don't say it, the conditions are the truth. This land was never made for men that rape and women like they do. I don't need a list. I believe the survivors. Believe survivors. This land was never made for men that rape and women like they do. That's how the people already do. I hate you. Even if they don't say it, the conditions are the proof that it's telling all these lies. Well, the people deserve the truth. This land was never made. This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made.
Move across to the grassy area on the other side.
Even if they don't say it, the conditions are the proof. They're telling all these lies.
Listen to me in the grassy area right now.
Do you agree? Do you agree? You stand for justice. You stand for something. Your badge means nothing. Your gun means nothing. Your badge means nothing. Your gun means I didn't touch it. I touched you. Did I touch you? Did I touch you? Did I touch you? This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. Do you agree? Don't protect racists, rapists. Do you agree? Your badge means nothing. Your badge means nothing. Your badge means nothing. I didn't touch it. This land was never made. This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made for men that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made that rape and pillage like they do. This land was never made. Do you agree? Your fucking badge means nothing. Your fucking badge means nothing. Your fucking badge means nothing. Your fucking stuff. Your fucking stuff.
I say we should all stand over
This move was never made for men that raise their feelings like they do.
If everybody lets them keep pushing on our rights, we will have none left.
Okay, so it's been kind of interesting out here because this is a sort of conservative Republican-led bill that's, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, arguably two of the most conservative members of Congress, and then, of course, up there with progressive Democrat Ro Khanna, saying that they want the Epstein files released, and they want them released by law, not by sort of suggestion nor subpoena to the DOJ, but that they want a law that says that you have to release the Epstein files. As they held that press conference alongside many of the survivors, some of which were speaking out for the first time, police were kind of gradually pushing away people who were here largely with an anti-Trump message, but generally supporting the survivors. Some of them were upset at the presence of Marjorie Taylor Greene specifically, but in general were supporting the survivors and were being pushed back ostensibly for making noise. So as you just saw, that was kind of that pushback, but now I'm circling back into the area where the presser had taken place to see what's going on here.
Jonathan.
Okay, so a little bit of time.
There are people at the White House that we communicate with at different levels, and at all of these levels, they are engaged on us. So, Legislative Affairs Department, staff at the White House is engaged with members of Congress, the President himself. You've also got members of Congress running for statewide elected offices, and they cannot afford to alienate the president. Maybe they could take one or two positions that are adverse to the president and still get reelected. They feel like that's going to hurt them in a state like this. When we haven't built trust in the so that's another reason I see some people hurt.
So you're not afraid of it?
So in 2014, a $75 million sell claims that bank-enabled Epstein sex trafficking. It's possible these documents that the Republican are trying to prevent from going out and having foreign information that the banks know about Epstein's.
Absolutely. I mean, the first rule of any investigation is follow the money. So we got to follow the bank records. And that is one thing the Oversight Committee is doing that I applaud. Let's hope they get it out there. We can hold that information and follow the money. Which accounts did it come from?
So when something this big happens, usually the White House will try to distract them, especially this issue. Are you worried that they're going to do that? And what do you think?
Well, they've already tried. The Speaker of the House sent us on recess for 5 weeks.
I meant today.
To try to make this issue go away. Today, they did a flyover of the Capitol. That flyover, I believe, was scheduled after this press conference was announced. I don't know that they did that on purpose. What if they did that? There will be no limit to the weapons of mass distraction that the White House will apply to try to make this go away. The thing is, these survivors have spoken to this, some for the very first time. Now there are faces and voices associated with this that will not go away. We're hearing from the survivors, we're hearing from me. It's not going to let this issue go. And the discharge petition stays live for another 16 months until the end of Congress. Like, can you imagine just needing one or two more signatures for 14 more months? People are going to hear this in every town hall. It might not be the most important thing for everybody at the town hall, but somebody at every town hall is going to ask that question. Why didn't you sign the discharge petition? What are you hiding?
Thank you for your service. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? I know you talked about the pressure that the White House can exert on it, but the fact that there are two efforts to do this, and your effort actually has the backing of all of the victims, are you surprised that more Republicans are not already vocally on board?
Well, I made a tactical mistake. I collected 12 co-sponsors of this legislation that were inside of the aisle. When I didn't need any co-sponsors, I was doing it to show that here are the members of Congress most likely to sign this document when it ripens. And now that it's ripened, the White House they have a list. They have a list of 12 Republicans to call up every day, to call people in their district, call their donors, get their donors to ask them. Like, they're surrounded 360 degrees. I expected a full court press on my colleagues.
And the news that one of the survivors made today, that there is going to be an effort among them to put together a kind of list of perpetrators potentially. Is there a role for you all to play in that too? And are you going to be working hand in hand with them on whatever that looks like?
Well, I was encouraged and surprised to hear that they are going to create a list. Of course, a list is not an indictment. It's not a conviction. It's not even a certainty that that person is guilty. But I think we need to start with the list and find out who on the list is guilty and what crimes did they commit. The most interesting thing I saw that was conceived today was Marjorie Taylor Greene's idea to take that confidential list, read it on the floor of the House of Representatives, because we have speech or debate immunity that's guaranteed in the Constitution. So one of us, and I'd be glad to do the very same thing that she offered to do, could go to the floor of the House and read the list and not suffer any defamation cases or
because that's privileged speech. You cannot be sued for what you say on the House.
You can't be held to account in any other venue like your court and for anything that you say on the floor of the House of Representatives. And 34,000 page document would be hard to release on the floor of the House of Representatives, but a list of 3 dozen names would not be hard to carry to the floor of the House of Representatives and read in 5 minutes, and perhaps read it every day.
A lot of the colleagues in the House say they're on the fence about this bill precisely because they believe that the DOJ has been that it is being transparent.
I'm
The
good.
vast majority of the documents already have been released. What confidence
hold on,
can you
sure.
say is the tip of the iceberg? Where are you looking at that? I'm with
How can you say that with a straight face?
I mean, I'm just saying what they're saying, right? I think some of them really earnestly believe the DOJ is cooperating and it has put forward what it does have. I guess my question to you and to the attorneys too would be, what does the public not know
You're a
about
reporter.
what the DOJ
You're a
has?
reporter, right? Okay, you have the same access to those documents my staff does. Go look at the documents.
I saw
You tell me,
and I knew you
if
had
there's
that locked.
anything in there that would reveal any name of another co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein. Anything that might do that, like the flight log, is completely redacted.
Gabriel,
Their
great to meet you.
Gabriel's running unseat venous and
So it's on its face,
on the call last
observed.
night.
There's no reason to debate the no one, right?
Right on.
So if this is an absolute certainty, I don't feel like
Today,
I need to answer the
parking
question.
until
But I will
3,
give you more evidence
probably another hour
if you
or
don't
two.
have
If
time
you
to go
leave
to
after
the
your
34,000 files and compare those to what's
That's kind of my bad.
I have to
I
go
guess
in a
the
few minutes. I have
biggest
to go to the interview.
evidence that my bill would release more materials than the DOJ intends to release is the DOJ's opposition to my bill. If my bill is redundant, why are they undertaking all of this political pressure? Why is the president taking on and taking on so much criticism and expending so much political capital with independents, Democrats, and his own base on this issue? It's because our resolution doesn't say, pretty please, mother, may I see those documents.
Ian, Christina,
Good to meet you. Unlike the oversight committee. But I am not against what the oversight committee is doing. You know, give it a good team try.
Congressman, I read your bill with Congressman Khanna, and you allow for the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to determine that if certain materials may jeopardize national security in some fashion, that those Epstein-related materials or Maxwell-related materials can continue to be withheld. Why give the Attorney General an out, given how nebulous those invocations of national security justifications can often be, to say, oh, because there could be some very tenuous connection to something national security related, we can keep this file sealed in perpetuity. Why even include that excuse in the bill?
You got to get 218 seats. Oh, that's what you. If one of my colleagues thinks that we're going to compromise national security, they won't sign the bill.
How can it conceivably jeopardize national security?
You have to put that in there if you're going to. It's not something I would sit and say, let's put that in there. It's something that when you run the bill past other colleagues and say, can you
Could I
sign
ask you a couple questions on camera about the Epstein thing?
Every Democrat to sign it. It's one of the things that was felt was necessary. By the way, I mean they run a risk of criminal prosecution.
So I'm just curious, like for sort of a new generation
and
of politicians coming in, like people that are more like the rest of us,
by the way,
coming into politics to get involved.
We could,
that, I think,
let's say they
gives us all a
redact
lot of
something
hope
and they say for national security reasons.
We know that people that weren't there for this aren't compromised.
I could go to the skit.
And so I'd be curious for
let
you
me
to
see
just
the
share
redaction.
what you're running for,
And I could say,
what your name
this
is,
is not national security.
and I want to ask you a few
Walk on the
questions
floor
about
of
your
the
take on
House
this whole
and
Epstein
say,
debacle and
here's the redaction. I could say it without being prosecuted. And they might not ever let me on skiff again. But there are ways around that.
I don't know if you saw earlier, but I was invited to the press conference by Congressman Khanna.
Yeah, I thought you were really rude.
How so?
Representative Luna, in Action Connection, Representative Luna recently said that maybe one of the main reasons was due to connections to foreign
This is a drum from that old guard.
It was emotional, and I think it's easy to get lost in the politics of the Epstein.
All right, so that was Congressman Massie out here who's kind of led the charge on this issue. With that, I am going to close out the stream here. I will be live again at least at 4 p.m., but a couple of different things I might be covering today. So like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.